I really wish ice cream could rebuild my limb. Hi everyone, this is Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain and it's time for a Truthful Tuesday. And this Truthful Tuesday, I decided to again come up with a pretty hard truth. And, because it is a certain truth that I refuse to accept myself. I think talking about it might actually make it a little easier for me to um, understand that that is a problem. So now where it starts is, frankly, I have been a little too complacent in my life because I thought that gaining knowledge about really everything for that matter um, would pretty much give me a certain pass to not performing as hard or trying as hard in everything for that matter. Um, and I was very complacent in it. I still am very complacent in it. Um, and the reason that I am sharing this is because um, very early in my life, I mean, I was a bookworm from a very early age. And the one thing I would do was I would keep reading, and it would be whatever information. It would be anything from books to newspapers to whatever I could get my hands on. And of course, there would be a lot of people who would, look at me reading and think, you know, how good it was that, or that I was a good person for reading so much, for being someone who found so much happiness in reading. And because I was gaining some amount of knowledge out of reading all of these things, people also had the idea that I was very, very smart. And, of course, when you get praised a little too much, a little too often, suddenly you don't seek the validation, you more or less expect the validation. And that is where the complacency came in, where I pretty much became a little too complacent and felt that I deserved the praise. And it just so happened that um, while expecting a praise for absolutely nothing became more or less the norm for me, I also let it get way too much in my head. And I think at one point in time, it almost gave me this, I felt it gave me sort of like a ticket to pretty much decide straight off the bat, that I didn't need to try very hard. And sure, there were some things that I was probably had a little bit of a, what's the word? I had a little bit of talent for, I'd say, to understand. But at the end of the day, I stopped really trying hard in anything and everything, right? I would just not give any, I wouldn't give a hoot about anything. And really, if I came across a critic that was maybe a little too critical, as they should be, about my thing, I would think of them as being at fault when it should have been me. Because at the end of the day, getting all of that praise that early on made me probably realize that, okay, I should only get praise. And now, when I am a little where I am, I have a little trouble understanding the value of hard work, or how much work I should really put into certain things, certain pursuits, certain exercises, certain things, because I never had the option to, or I never had the ability to learn, or I really didn't have the learning to handle criticism or even work on criticism in a healthy fashion. Because to me, having been brought up on endless praises, I never thought that there was anything wrong with me. It was just everyone else that was wrong. So that is a pretty harsh truth that I have to say about myself. And while I am trying to improve, be a little more objective in being better at handling criticism or handling feedback. A lot of people don't like the word criticism, but honestly, it's more for the positive. Because of I'm learning how to take that better. I'm also trying to work a little harder, even though the working harder is definitely a much bigger mountain to climb. Because very early on, it just was something that I wasn't accustomed to doing, and so now it's become a little harder. Now you might be listening to all of this and thinking, okay, how does this fit into MS? Well, the way it fits into MS is how it comes back to stories of me achieving, let's say, a small goal, let's say reaching a checkpoint, which was part of a much larger goal, but then realizing that, okay, I've reached the checkpoint, I can take a bit of a rest, and pretty much stopping everything at that point. And now that I've gotten to the place where I am today, and I understand that it's a much larger, much longer trek to the finish line, I'm having a little more trouble just keeping myself in that focus. But so that is a little bit of a harsh truth that I do have to share. I don't think I've shared this before, so yes, please do give in your thoughts, your insights, your experiences as to how I can do certain things that might actually help me get better at all of this, because that would be very helpful for me, and also learn a little more about myself, because this is definitely one thing that I need to improve, considering I am a little too old to not have realized this, maybe like in a much earlier space. So yes, please do share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, so that we can get a conversation started and I can learn a little bit more about um, really working hard. And of course, with that said, this is Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain, and of course, I hope your Tuesday went very well. My Tuesday was actually pretty long, considering that I did have to get a vitamin B12 injection today. But the IV went pretty well, the infusion went well, and now I have a little more energy to share. So this is me wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.